This is the scariest street in the world. It only appears at midnight, and it's the road to hell. And I was so excited when I found out about this place because I've been obsessed with the idea of alternate dimensions, parallel universes, and anything that has to do with the concept of time for as long as I can remember. There are all kinds of theories about these sorts of things. It was a relatively normal town with normal people doing normal things. And since Halloween was right around the corner, they assumed that someone was already celebrating early. But then they noticed a staircase leading to the basement. Curiosity got the best of them, so they started to walk down the stairs. Together, they read the spells and incantations, and they even tried to perform a few of them. The room had become a dark void, and they were being pulled inside. Then everything went black. A massive search party was formed, but after days of looking, there was still no sign of the kids. People started talking about a road that appeared in the middle of the night, leading to an unknown destination. No one had ever seen this road before, but suddenly it was there. People started to wonder if this road had something to do with the missing children, but no one knew for sure. There is no turning back. Whoever enters here will never leave. The teenagers froze. They had heard the voice before in the old book. It was one of the spells, a warning. But it was too late. They had already gone too far. If the road really did lead to hell, why didn't the kids vanish right away? Whatever the case may be, this road is obviously dangerous, and the people of Silent Hill are wise to stay away from it. Why did they have to travel down the road before they were taken? And what happened to the people who lived in the house? Did they vanish as well? Was that house an interdimensional portal? What kind of magic was in that book? Questions like these run rampant through my mind, and it keeps me up at night wondering what could possibly lurk at the end of such a mysterious road. They had simply disappeared without a trace. And this is where the story gets weird. First, nothing happened. The spells seemed to be nothing but gibberish. But then, suddenly, the room began to shake. We don't know what happens to anyone who travels down the road. No one does. But some people theorize that the road leads to hell itself, which explains why everyone who enters it disappears. The ground beneath them trembled violently, and the walls started to close in. They waited until midnight and then walked down the street where the house with the basement and the book stood. And right in front of them, almost as if it had been summoned into existence by magic, a road materialized before their very eyes. It stretched into the darkness, winding its way through the trees like a ribbon. The teenagers looked at each other, and without saying a word, they started to walk down the road. The kids screamed in terror as they realized that they had unleashed something evil. The trees were gnarled and twisted, and the air grew colder as they continued their journey. Suddenly, a mist began to form around them, and it quickly grew thicker and thicker until they could barely see in front of them. Then they heard a voice. As they descended, they could hear strange noises coming from below, like whispers and chains dragging metal moans. But the kids were too scared to turn back. They continued walking until they reached the bottom of the stairs. The children were excited to receive extra candy, so they quickly knocked on the door. But when no one answered, they tried to open it themselves. The door wasn't locked, so it opened easily. And once inside, the kids were shocked. But one day, everything changed. One night, a group of young kids decided to go trick-or-treating early. They weren't waiting for the actual holiday. They just wanted candy. So they put on their costumes and went door to door. In the basement, the children found an old book lying on a table. It was covered in strange symbols and writing that looked ancient. And as they flipped through the pages, they realized that it was a grimoire, a book of spells. The kids were fascinated by what they had found, and they couldn't wait to show it to their friends. So they took the book with them and ran as fast as they could through the dark streets of Silent Hill. And as they made their way through the quiet neighborhood, they noticed something peculiar. Some people believe that there are other dimensions that exist alongside our own, but are hidden from our perception. Others believe that time is a flat circle and that we keep reliving the same moments over and over again. And then some think that every decision we make creates a new branching universe where we end up at different places. Well, whatever the case may be, if any of these ideas actually have any truth to them, then it would mean that there are infinite roads, streets, and paths that exist in our reality. They just aren't accessible to us. Maybe they are, and we just don't realize it. In the town of Silent Hill, however, there's a road that only appears at midnight. And despite the fact that it's right there in front of people's faces, okay, you can't see it until the clock strikes 12. But before we get into it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And this road is like a portal to another dimension, or maybe even the afterlife itself. And those who travel down it never return. To say that this place is creepy is an understatement. And honestly, I wouldn't want to live on this street if I knew what I know now. We'll talk about exactly what makes this place so scary, and also how a couple of teenagers discovered the road in the first place. The story behind this terrifying street goes back several decades to when a large number of families lived in the town of Silent Hill. As they approached one house, they saw a flickering light coming from inside. The room they had entered was dark and dusty, and it appeared to have been abandoned for many years. And there, in front of them, was a sight that they would never forget. When they finally arrived at their destination, they sat down and showed their friends the contents of the grimoire. They ran for the door, but it was too late. When the children's parents realized that they had vanished, they immediately called the police. After the children went missing, rumors began to spread throughout the town. Then, one night, two teenagers decided to find out. It felt as if they had entered another dimension because everything around them had changed. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It said, "Turn back while you still can." And as they took another step down the road, the mist closed in around them and swallowed them whole. That's where we got the name for this episode. It's called The Road to Hell. But listen, there are parts of this story that don't make sense. Maybe it doesn't lead to hell. Maybe it leads to a parallel dimension where everything is different. Or maybe it leads to the afterlife. But let me tell you this, if I ever found a road that appeared at midnight, I wouldn't be able to resist the urge to walk down it. And hey, you made it to the end of the video.